It began with laughter, the kind of faint giggling sound that carried across an otherwise quiet house when no one else was supposed to be there. And for Claire Jennings, it started on the night she brought home the doll. She had been driving back from an estate sale just outside of town where she bought old trinkets and furniture to restore and resell online. But among the stack of chipped chairs and boxes of faded porcelain teacups, she had found something that unsettled her, yet intrigued her too much to leave behind. It was a doll, small enough to sit on her forearm, with pale cracked porcelain skin, black button eyes, and a faded blue dress that had been carefully stitched long ago by hands that clearly loved it. There was something eerie about it, as though it had seen more than it should have. But when the elderly woman running the sale whispered that it had belonged to her late sister and should not be left behind in the house, Claire had given her $20 and carried it home. She placed the doll on the passenger seat as she drove, trying not to notice how its head seemed to lean ever so slightly in her direction, as if listening. The first night, she set the doll on a shelf in her living room, among other antiques, turned off the lights, and went upstairs to bed. Sometime after midnight, she awoke to what sounded like someone whispering from downstairs. She lay frozen, listening, until the whispering stopped and was replaced by the faint sound of a giggle, soft and childlike. Claire convinced herself she was half dreaming and drifted back into uneasy sleep. But in the morning, she found the doll no longer sitting upright on the shelf. It had fallen forward, face pressed against the wood, arms stretched toward the edge, as though it had been crawling. She shook her head and told herself it was gravity, maybe vibration from a passing truck. But when she set it upright again, she swore its button eyes glistened darker than before, almost wet. The following day, while Claire was photographing furniture for her online shop, she heard a voice faintly behind her. It was not loud, not distinct, but it was unmistakably a word. It sounded like hello. She spun around, but the room was empty except for the doll. She laughed nervously, told herself she was stressed and overtired, but she could not shake the way the doll's cracked porcelain lips seemed parted, ever so slightly, as if mid-sentence. By the third night, Claire could no longer ignore it. She was cooking dinner when she heard it again, louder this time, a small voice saying, "Claire." She dropped the spoon she was holding and saw splattered across the counter as she stumbled backward. The house was quiet again, except for her pounding heart, but the doll sat where she had left it, head tilted now toward the kitchen. Gathering her courage, she whispered, "Who is there?" For a moment, silence pressed heavy against her ears, and then she heard it, faint and unmistakable, the word "me." Claire stood shaking, staring at the doll, and whispered, "Who are you?" The answer came slowly, the porcelain lips unmoving, the button eyes shining black in the dim light. "I am Emily." The sound was a child's voice, soft and laced with something hollow. Claire backed away, fear clawing at her chest, and whispered, "What do you want?" The reply chilled her blood. "I want to play." That night, she placed the doll in a box, taped it shut, and carried it to the garage, telling herself it was nothing, that she was losing her mind. But as she tried to sleep, she heard the sound of something scraping along the floor downstairs, then the unmistakable sound of the box tearing. She rushed down with trembling hands to find the box split open, tape ripped apart as though by claws, and the doll sitting upright on the floor facing the stairs. She nearly screamed, but instead whispered to herself, "It cannot be real! It cannot be real!" before fleeing upstairs and locking her bedroom door. The giggling that echoed outside her door for the rest of the night made her skin crawl, as if a child was waiting for her to open it. The next day, Claire drove to a nearby antique shop and begged the owner to take the doll. The man glanced at it, pale-faced, and refused. He told her he had seen such things before and warned her not to give it away to unsuspecting people, for whatever clung to it would only follow. He advised her to destroy it. Claire left shaken but determined, driving out to a remote field where she doused the doll in lighter fluid and set it ablaze. She stood watching as fire consumed the dress, the hair, the porcelain face, cracking and splitting apart until it collapsed into ash. Relief flooded her chest for the first time in days, but that night, as she closed her bedroom window, she heard a voice whisper from the darkness behind her. "Why did you hurt me?" She spun, and there it was, sitting on her bed, dress no longer charred, porcelain face whole, button eyes staring blankly. Claire screamed, stumbling back, knocking over a lamp, and the doll giggled softly. "I said I want to play." From then on, the voice grew bolder, louder, speaking to her at all hours. When she ignored it, objects moved in her house. Cups shattered on the floor, mirrors cracked, doors slammed shut. When she answered it, the doll laughed and said things she did not want to hear, things about her late mother, her fears, her loneliness, secrets no one else knew. Emily began asking for things, demanding Claire leave food out, demanding to be carried from room to room. At first, Claire resisted, but when her dog was found one morning stiff and lifeless at the foot of the stairs, its eyes blackened and its body twisted, she obeyed. She carried the doll, fed it, talked to it, and lived in terror every waking moment. One evening, as she sat sobbing at her table, she asked Emily what it wanted from her, truly. The doll answered, "I want you to stay with me forever." Claire felt her blood run cold, whispering, "I cannot, I am alive." The doll answered back, "Then I will make you like me." That night, Claire dreamed of being trapped inside porcelain, unable to move, unable to scream, staring out through black glass eyes. When she awoke, she could not shake the horror, nor the faint feeling that her reflection in the mirror had blinked out of sync with her. She tried to reach out for help. She called a priest who came and sprinkled holy water in her home, but as he entered the living room, the doll tipped its head and the man froze. He muttered prayers, his face draining of blood, and fled without a word. She called a friend, but when her friend came by, the doll was nowhere to be seen, though Claire swore she had left it in the living room. When the friend laughed nervously and left, the doll's voice whispered from the closet behind her, "You cannot tell anyone. No one will believe you." The torment escalated. Claire would wake to find her hair cut in uneven clumps. She would taste blood in her mouth and find tiny bite marks on her arms. At night, the doll's voice sometimes shifted, no longer a child, but something deeper, older, something that spoke in languages she did not know, but understood in her bones. She began to lock the doll away in cabinets, drawers, even a safe she bought, but no matter where she placed it, the doll would always be sitting upright in her bed when she returned, waiting, whispering, "Play with me." One stormy night, Claire decided she could not take it anymore. She packed her things into her car, planning to drive until she was far from the house, but as she started the engine, the radio flickered to life, though it was turned off. A child's voice sang softly through the static, a lullaby she did not know, and the back seat creaked. She glanced in the rearview mirror and saw the doll sitting there, upright, button eyes staring. Claire screamed and swerved, crashing into a ditch. The last thing she remembered was the sound of the doll's giggling echoing in her skull as she lost consciousness.